John Wilkes Booth was the ninth of 10 children born to Junius Brutus Booth, a famous actor noted for his talent, his eccentric, some have said mentally unbalanced, nature, and his love of alcohol. John Wilkes Booth followed his father into the theatrical profession, making his stage debut in Baltimore at the age of 17. Joining a Shakespearean acting company based in Richmond, Virginia, some of his most respected performances were in the plays of Shakespeare. When the fanatical abolitionist John Brown seized the federal arsenal at Harper's Ferry in hopes of instigating a slave revolt in 1859, Booth joined the Richmond Greys, a militia unit sent to aid in his capture. He witnessed Brown's execution for treason against Virginia a few weeks later. John Wilkes Booth was a Maryland native born in 1838 into a family of noted actors. Booth would eventually take the stage himself, appearing in 1855 in Shakespeare's Richard III in Baltimore.
Abraham Lincoln, born February 12, 1809 in Hardin County, Kentucky. Abraham's mother died when he was 10 years old. When he was 18, he and his father moved from Kentucky to Indiana. Abraham could read, write, and cipher. Abraham was a captain in the Black Hawk War. Abraham married Mary Todd, had 4 boys, and only one of them lived to maturity. He ran against Stephen A. Douglas for senator. He lost the election, but in debate with Douglas, he gained a national reputation that won him the Republican nomination for president in 1860.
Abraham Lincoln was in office from March 4, 1861 to April 15, 1865.
As president, he built the Republican Party into a strong national organization. Further, he rallied most of the Northern Democrats to the Union cause. On January 1, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation that declared forever free those slaves within the Confederacy. Abraham said at Gettysburg Cemetery, "That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, but this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." Lincoln won re-election in 1864. A Union military triumph heralded an end to the war. On Good Friday, April 14, 1865, Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theater in Washington by John Wilkes Booth, an actor who somehow thought that he was helping the South. The opposite was the result, for with Lincoln's death, the possibility of peace with magnanimity died.
Booth saw Lincoln as a tyrant who was taking away white Southerners' rights to start their own country and enslave people of African descent. "Our country owed all her troubles to him, and God simply made me the instrument of his punishment. I struck for my country and that alone, a country that groaned beneath this tyranny, and prayed for this end, and yet now behold the cold hands that extend to me," said Booth. Booth developed an intense hatred of Lincoln and became consumed with planning to remove him from the presidency, first by kidnapping, then by assassination. The final straw for Booth was Lincoln's endorsement of African American voting rights on April 11, 1865. 3 nights later, Booth acted upon his hatred.
John Wilkes Booth assassinated President Lincoln in Ford's Theater. It is said that Lincoln's guard was not on his post outside the president's looking box. He was at the saloon next door drinking in the same room with the man that would later take President Lincoln's life. Booth shot the president with a .44 caliber single-shot Derringer in the back of the head at point range. Around 10 p.m., Booth slipped into the box. The guard outside had left his station, and Booth got past Charles Forbes, the White House footman, by showing him his card. He then fired a single shot that entered the left side of Lincoln's head, the bullet lodging below his eye.
After John Wilkes Booth shot President Lincoln, he jumped onto the stage from the president's looking box and broke his leg. He managed to escape completely even with his broken leg. He yelled, "Sic semper tyrannis," translating to, "Thus always to tyrants." It is a shortened version of the phrase, "Sic semper e velo mortem tyrannis," "Thus always I bring death to tyrants." John thought of Lincoln as a tyrant to all because he was trying to rule over people.
The manhunt for John Wilkes Booth was one of the largest manhunts in this period of history. Lasting 13 days after shooting President Lincoln, John Wilkes Booth was on the run. They offered a $100,000 reward for his capture. Officer Harold and Surratt had rewards up for their apprehension too.
He jumped onto a horse he had left there and rode frantically out of Washington. Booth made his way into Maryland, where he met up with David Harold. The two rode to Mary Surratt's Tavern in Surrattsville, Maryland. to pick up guns and other supplies. At 4 in the morning on April 15th, Harold and Booth arrived at Dr. Samuel Mudd's home. Mudd, who would later claim not to have recognized the injured traveler, set Booth's broken leg and provided him with shelter. For the next 4 days, Booth and Harold hid in a pine thicket near Rich Hill, Maryland. Federal soldiers passed by their hiding spot several times. On April 20th, they attempted to cross the Potomac River into Virginia, hoping they would be safer in a Confederate state. They became disoriented and ended up back in Maryland. 2 days later, they successfully crossed. Cold, wet, and exhausted, the conspirators welcomed assistance from a former Confederate soldier named Willie Jett. On April 24th, Jett guided them to the farm of Richard Garrett, near Port Royal in Caroline County, Virginia. Using the false name of James W. Boyd, Booth told the Garretts he was a wounded Confederate soldier making his way home. The family welcomed the travelers.
On April 24th, tipped off by a reporter of 2 men seen crossing the Potomac, 25 soldiers from the 16th New York Cavalry Regiment were ordered to join the search for Lincoln's assassin. Booth and Harold were sleeping in a tobacco barn on the Garrett farm when Federal troops surrounded them. The morning of April 26, Harold surrendered, but Booth refused. The soldiers set the barn on fire. Through cracks in the walls, the soldiers could see the assassin leaning on a crutch. With a gun in his right hand, suddenly a shot rang out. Booth, mortally wounded with a bullet through his neck, crumbled to the ground.